Hi, welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. I'm Mark Owen, and each week I invite a panel of business experts to review the morning newspapers, find out what's happened in their own individual business and their own individual business sectors, and finally, what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. But before I start, I just want to thank our fantastic sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors. Okay, who we got on the panel today? We've got Andy Robbins. He is the Joint Managing Director of Baylis Motor Group. The company employs nearly 400 staff across 9 forecourts, 2 accident repair centres, and a non-franchise used car site in Worcester. Has a turnover of £117 million. They have close ties with major giant Stellantis and sell brand new MGs, Vauxhalls, Peugeots, and Suzuki vehicles across dealerships in Gloucestershire, Herefordshire, Worcestershire, and my hometown, Merthyr Tydfil in Wales. So we'll find out all about the business and the motor trade. How's it all going, Andy? Looking forward to that. We've got Roman Cooper. He's back. MD of All Cooper Property and ex-owner of All Cooper Security Company. Roman Cooper and his brother Gerald Cooper sold the family business in 2019, and he now runs his own property company. I was going to say empire there, Roman, but maybe property would be probably better. We'll find all about what he's been up to and what's happening next. So great to see you again, mate. We've got Clare Seed, the director of Tidal Training Direct Limited, a Cheltenham company specialised in first aid, CPR, defibrillator, workplace first aid training. She's also famously the co-founder of Public Heart's Defibrillator Campaign, a community scheme focused on increasing public access to defibrillators in Cheltenham, and has currently fitted 108 across the county. Amazing achievement. So great to have you on the show again, Claire. Okay, let's see what's making the headlines today, courtesy of the BBC. If I share that there, quickly go over here. Here we go, the Daily Telegraph. MI5 chief dismayed by China spy fiasco. The MI chief warns UK of need to confront daily China spy threat. The Mirror, China's the threat every day. The Financial Times, China hits out smear campaign. The Daily Mail, Andrew and spy chief at heart of China scandal. The Guardian, MPs press top prosecutor over collapse of spy case. The Times, China and MI5 berate Labour over spying case. The Metro, whose side are you on? Sir Keir. The Daily Express, ban on Israel fans for national disgrace. And the Daily Star, Freddie, my guilt over Ricky. Okay, there's only one main story in town today, it looks like. Okay, Roman, let's start with you today. What have you picked out from the papers, please?
Well, thanks, Mark. It's a fairly depressing landscape of stuff to try and find anything of any jollity out there. But I guess going back to the Chinese questions that have been in every newspaper today, I guess the one that comes in the Sun today, the pinnacle of news reporting, it says, as the one question, has Kia told the truth? And of course, ultimately, we need to understand what's going on there. I have read around it, and there's so many moving parts. It's really, really difficult to understand what's going on. So I think that's sort of suiting the government at the moment, because it's very difficult to pin it down to one or two things, because there's been so much going on about that. And I'm not sure we'll ever get to the bottom of that one. Another one that I've got the Times today. It's all buzzed out in the screen, but here we are. Just about there's an article on the front page about state workers leaning towards Britain's rivals, and one of the quotes from the people who carried out the survey with 8,000 people: if you're a group that's hostile to the UK, you'd be really happy with these figures, was one of the quotes. And then one of the recommendations for employing people into the public sector is that for job adverts to stress that a civil service career should emphasise the importance of supporting democracy by implementing government policies, rather than a civil service career that promotes progressive goals. So I think that would be fairly interesting if you employed somebody to do one thing and then they did something else. And then finally, and it was on one of the headlines there, the Tel Aviv fans barred from the Aston Villa match. I mean, it's a real watershed moment for this country that for those reasons. I know we've got close to it in Scotland between Rangers and Celtic, which was fairly unpalatable for similar reasons. I think this is a watershed moment that people can't go and watch a a football match between two clubs. So yeah,
This is all about security, though, more than anything else, isn't it?
well, that's right. I mean, but the point is that you can't go and watch your team. That's ultimately what it's about. It's a football match, and so obviously it's more than a football match for a lot of people, and it's caused this decision.
Okay, no, thanks ever so much.
Yeah, Keir Starmer says it's a mistake.
No, without shadow, he's a big football fan as well. Okay, thanks ever so much for that, Roman. Andy, let's bring you in. Great to see you again. What have you picked out for the papers?
Well, again, there's so much doom and gloom in the press nowadays. It's hard to find something that's a bit more light-hearted, and there isn't really a lot to do. The one thing I picked it in the Telegraph yesterday, there's an obituary for a very famous and respected judge called Sir Stephen Brown, who passed away at 100 years of age recently, and he was very famous. I say famous. He was well known for his for the way he was very humane. He was a very humane judge, as a lot would say. But he was really brought into the limelight during the 90s when he judged on a case for one of the Hillsborough disaster victims who was in a coma state and had no brain function, and he was the one that judged that the machine could be turned off, which then, as he went through his career and his life as a judge, then become more about euthanasia, which obviously in the current climate is a big topic currently going through Parliament as we talk. So yeah, he unfortunately passed away recently, but 100 years old, I think that was a good innings for him. Another one, the Royal Mail have been fined £21 million for not delivering first-class post on time, which just, I don't know, it just seems complete madness that when a company or a business or whatever they are nowadays, don't meet their targets, they're fined millions of pounds, which really, how does that help them perform any better? It just makes things worse as far as I can see, but it just seems crazy. And then a more light-hearted one, Match of the Day are losing thousands of viewers since Gary Lineker decided to leave. So I think there's a bit of a be careful what you wish for there with the BBC. Yeah, it's lost 10% of its normal viewing figures since Gary Lineker left. So yeah.
Well, I'll like discuss that very quickly before I bring Claire in, because I don't understand what Wayne Rooney's doing on there, because I don't understand Wayne Rooney. I think I'm very sorry. I think that's part of the problem. I really like Gary Lineker. What do you reckon, guys? Very quick.
Agreed.
Very strange move.
Yeah,
Okay,
I only ever record Match of the Day and then zoom through all the talky bits and just watch the game. I'm a bit of a cheat.
Okay. I'm the opposite, actually. I like all the chatty bits. Anyway, Claire, let's bring you in. What have you picked out for the papers, please?
Well, firstly, happy Friday, Mark, and it's a pleasure to be here in your company and with the lovely gentlemen, both of whom have highlighted quite rightly that it's very difficult to find something positive in the news, but I've got good news, I found it. And it's actually called positive.news. So if anybody's looking for an additional subscription to Punchline, this one would be a nice follow-up. So let's talk about a couple of really, really, really good, well, it was certainly one really good thing. What's going right? What's going right in healthcare specifically? Well, we've got a quiet healthcare revolution driven by the magic of AI. And Mark and I met at Tech Week at MX, obviously, so we're tying in that tech evolution and what AI agents can do for us and how it's going to revolutionize every bit of our lives. We just don't know exactly how much, how, and how valuable it's going to be. But let's talk about a new revolutionizing tool with stroke treatment. Now, anybody who's been exposed to the impact of stroke knows how devastating it can be. We also know how impactful the outcome can be if we can diagnose it quickly and if we can treat it quickly. And that goes with any medical emergency. But an AI-assisted brain scanning tool has been shown, and here in the UK with our beloved NHS, to rapidly speed up diagnosis, enabling more than half of patients to recover more quickly. So according to the National Health Service, which is rolling out the tool nationwide, I believe, it's already been used to interpret more than 60,000 scans, and where deployed, it's enabled practitioners to make faster decisions and diagnose a better and more effective treatment plan. So that is absolutely incredible. And apparently the AI tool is that quick that it's estimated that someone who's had a stroke loses 2 million brain cells a minute. So rapid deployment and diagnosis and using AI to power medical evolution is absolutely vital. So there's a positive bit on tech and there's a positive bit on healthcare. And as an aging population with more complex care needs, isn't that just a wonderful thing?
No, it's great news. Well, thanks ever so much for that. And I'll have a look at that website. Positive News, it's called.
Yeah, I'll
Thanks
send you
ever,
the link.
thanks ever so much for that, Claire. Okay, I'm going to go to you next, Andy. Let's talk about your business, if that's all right. Let's you obviously, the company's being 400 staff, 117 million pound turnover, huge business to run. How is the motor market going at the moment?
I think well, last time I was on it, it's probably in the same sort of state. It's in a state of flux with obviously the introduction of electrification and the changes that that's making to the industry, and that's obviously I won't say forced upon us, but the government's policies on the EV mandate and the net zero mandates are obviously forcing the introduction of electric vehicles. And since we spoke as well, the Chinese brands that are flooding the European markets. There seems to be a new Chinese brand coming to the market every other month at the moment, which is good, healthy competition, but again is disrupting the, I guess, more traditional brands. So there's a lot of movement going on there. But as far as our business goes, we're having a good year. We've continued to invest. We took on Suzuki at Staverton earlier this year. We're just about to launch Suzuki in Hereford as well. We've taken on Leap Motor in Worcester, which is a Stellantis Chinese-made electric brand. So that's just being launched as we talk. And we're about to launch Kia after sales at our Suzuki site in Staverton. So that will help the Kia owners of the Cheltenham side of the county have less drive to have their vehicles serviced and warranted and maintained. So yes, we've continued to expand the business. It's a challenge every day, as most businesses are, certainly with managing the workforce and the employees and our colleagues. It's definitely always a challenge to keep that going. But in the main, it's been a good year so far in a market, as I said, that is changing constantly, and the electrification side of things. To get a lot of retail customers engaged in that is quite a challenge, but it's certainly working. The electric percentage of registrations are going up. There'll be circa 27% this year of all registrations in the UK. So it's certainly happening. Whether people want it or not is another question, but that you'll certainly see a lot more electric cars on the road. Just look out for the little green bands on the number plates to show the cars, and you'll see them constantly everywhere now.
All right. And what about 0% finance? Does that make a huge difference in sales of cars? Do you see an uptick when the big manufacturers put that on?
I wouldn't say we see a big uptake. That would probably be stretching it. It's certainly a program that people like. It's not free money, but it is in all essence. Not having to pay interest on a loan for a vehicle is obviously a substantial benefit. So it certainly is a program that most retail customers want. And when you're talking around 80, I think it's 85% of all new vehicle sales are financed. When it's 0%, it's a big incentive and certainly does help reduce the payments. So yes, it's a big player. I wouldn't say when it's offered, it suddenly we see a queue at the showroom doors, because that's just not the case. But it certainly does help people, be more attractive to the offers that are available when it's 0%. Yes.
And what's your best-selling car, very quickly, Andy?
Well, obviously we've got more Vauxhall sites than we have the other brands. So it's Vauxhall and Corsa, which is, I think, still at the moment just about hanging on to being the best-selling car in Britain. It certainly was at certain parts this year. But the new Frontera for Vauxhall is doing extremely well. That's really seems to hit a spot. It's been a vehicle that we haven't had in the portfolio for nearly 2 years before that vehicle came back when it landed again back in September. So that vehicle, I think, going forward into next year will be the one to watch. Across the other brands, yeah, I mean the Peugeot products are a fantastic range of cars at the moment with the whole range of the Peugeots are quite modern and new, so they're all sort of just finding their feet in the market. Suzuki, we've got the new Vitara E that's just been launched, so it's the first electric car for Suzuki. And then with MG, we've just launched the new IM range, which is more of a Tesla style vehicle. Very impressive performance on the IMs. So you've got the IM5, the IM6. They're in our showrooms today. Literally been launched in the last couple of weeks. I think they going forward, they will be a big player in the MG market. And as I said, we've got Leap Motor. We're just about to launch that in Worcester. So again, they've got a very small segment vehicle, an electric small car the size of a sort of Fiat 500 size vehicle, which again is doing some tremendous sales across the UK. So we're hoping to really have an impact on that car in the Worcester market.
Okay, thanks ever so much for giving such an overview,
That's okay.
Andy. And I'm looking forward, hopefully, to come back down to the MG garage and test driving another couple of your cars. Sounds great. I don't know if you've seen them, guys.
Come and have a drive in the IM. You'll enjoy that. You'll enjoy that.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, Roman, it's great to get you on the show again. Good to see you as always. What have you been up to then, mate? I thought you retired.
Not quite. So when we sold the trading business, All Cooper Security, that was obviously a major thing, and we retained the site that we had in Kingsholm. So we'd already refurbished it, and Securitas, who bought All Cooper, were a tenant there. And after 5 years, they'd gone through COVID actually. So after 5 years, the company was a bit depleted locally in terms of numbers. They didn't need the space, so they closed, or they broke their lease. And subsequently, we've let it to Colin Taylor's business, TMS, the mentoring business, which is going great guns and very interesting business in its own right. So we've become a commercial property landlord. So we've got a couple of little sites elsewhere, but that's between Gerald and I, that's kind of keeps us busy enough. So we're always on site. We tend to do all the maintenance ourselves where we've got most things. So any repairs, we've van kitted out with all the plumbing gear and all the rest of it. So we tend to do that, and that keeps us busy. It's not particularly full time, but it keeps one of us busy part-time. So we tend to share the load. So it's a very different world from being in All Cooper 33 years in a very, very reactive fire and security business where we're running 24 hours a day. We have, like guys working on call at night. And, that was a hugely intensive and busy business. And to a point where we employed about 110 people in the end, I think, around that. And then we don't employ anyone now. So, it makes a huge difference. And it's probably taken, several years just to sort of acclimatise to a sort of the new world, really, because you're just running at 100 miles an hour for 30 odd years. So yeah, it's interesting, and we enjoy it. We got some great tenants as well, so that helps.
Do you miss that sort of cut and thrust moment, you and Gerald? Because not being funny, after 33 years, you grew that business. It was well established, well known. Do you miss it, or you're just glad to see the back of it? Times have changed, staffing. There
were several things. So we sold just before COVID, which is obviously, it depends on your point of view, but we're quite lucky in terms of timing. So I think that would have been desperately challenging to try and keep the business together, like every other business went through. I think that's one thing. The second thing, I guess, that we employed a lot of people, and it keeps you busy and it keeps you up at night and all the rest of it, and it's quite exhausting, I guess. So I think the sort of relief of not feeling responsible for people's mortgages and everything else, I think that was probably a good thing. I think also, sometimes things run their course, and it's being sort of brave enough, I guess, in some respects, to say, well, do you know what? There were things that were happening that were going round in circles. So I'd made mistakes back in the day. Then we employed managers and they'd made mistakes. Then we employed other managers and they made the same mistakes. And you think, crikey, how how many more times are we all going to make the same mistakes over and over again? So, but I guess that's just learning a business. So I think that sometimes, we've given it our all, and we came to a point where, well, actually, this is probably the right thing to do at the right time. I guess, and of course the current business environment wouldn't encourage you to go again. I mean, we had a sort of 3-year window where we could have just sort of gone quiet for 3 years and then gone again. But there were two things. One, we shook hands on the deal, so it wasn't something that I felt we'd agreed to sell the business, and it wasn't something I felt I wanted to do to sort of undermine that. I know it's business, so that what didn't feel right. And on the other hand, you could see the way that the winds were blowing. It's very difficult to run a business, frankly. And I take my hat off to anybody and everybody who's working very hard to keep businesses going and keep the taxes rolling in for the government.
Is there one takeaway that you could offer our viewers, about selling the business? What would be the one piece of advice that you could offer?
There's there's two or three if you don't mind, Mark.
Yeah, of course.
One, you've got to plan it from a mile out. You can't sell a business tomorrow if somebody knocks on your door. And if you did, you were either a fire sale trying to get rid of it, or you're in trouble, or there's something happened to you and you would undervalue it. So that's the first thing. Second thing, our business was based on contracts, so we used to have maintenance contracts. So the value in our business was the recurring revenue. And so you need to make sure that they're watertight or organised. I mean, I'm not talking about watertight in terms of tucking your customers up, but they need to be organised and up to date. So that was really important to make sure that you understand what it is you're actually selling, so that the buying party, you're removing any excuses for them to chip your price down. And then thirdly, I think that the problem that maybe we had was the management team ready to take the business forward afterwards. We had a great team, but the three directors, Dave, Jared, and myself, tended to make all the decisions. And in hindsight, it would have been better if we'd have had a layer of management that were able to take the business forward from there. I mean, who knows what would have happened afterwards? But that would have been sort of three things that you think about quite heavily.
Okay, no, thanks ever so much and for those honest answers there as well. And good to see you, Roman. Okay, let's get Clare in. Clare, obviously you've been mega busy with the sort of different elements of your business. Let's talk about your business before we go on to the public hearts defibrillator campaign. How is the business doing? Because it's we hear all the time companies are cutting costs. They're trying to save. We're working harder for less. Are they still investing in the training elements of such an important thing for their business?
Well, I can share a phrase that will surmise that for you, Mark, and it's something that I put out during COVID. The quantity might vary, but the quality cannot. And as you know, Colin and I are very mission-based, values-led people, and healthcare for us is about giving someone the best chance on their worst day. It's about giving a healthcare assistant who's coming into the world of healthcare the very best information, knowledge, skills and confidence to help the most vulnerable in society. And when you're running a very big value-led mission, and we both are, because obviously Colin runs the mothership, Tidal Training Limited, which is your bespoke mental health, child protection, learning disability, health and social care, etc., and I look after the pre-hospital stuff and the paramedics. There's nothing more important than helping someone when they need it most. And when you're having conversations with other business leaders in and beyond the healthcare sector, well, the T in Tidal stands for trust, Mark. They know we're going to deliver. They know we're going to do a proper job. They know why we're one of the best clinical educators in the country, with 40 trainers ranging from CAMS nurses, mental health nurses, diagnostic psychologists, drug and alcohol abuse specialists. Business is always going to be tough. The gentlemen have already highlighted that very clearly, and I can certainly empathise with some of the reflections Roman's made. It's just too important to get it wrong. And when you work in a sector like ours, which it has to be truly centred around people and purpose, those are the conversations that make the difference between success and maybe not so much success. So I suppose that's a long-winded way of saying if you've got a really good proposition, that's going to give you the success that you need, because we don't measure success in financial terms. We read every single feedback form that we get from our learners, and we're training 20,000 learners a year, from autism awareness right through to wound care management, in everywhere from Denbighshire right up to Scotland, right down to the Isle of Wight, in a whole suite of courses. In fact, this week we're training Médecins Sans Frontières. And we've trained a number of other global entities that I won't say publicly, naturally, but when you're good at what you do, people like to be with that, and people like excellence, and people like the ability to share that confidence and that professional love and kindness to their staff, to support their values and ethics in a sector that is under massive struggle. It's under massive pressure, but that doesn't matter. Because what does matter is helping someone who's vulnerable, who has one chance to get that right. And that is what I'm here to do. And that's what I'm here to support Colin doing. And as you can tell, I'm highly dedicated.
No, without a shadow of a doubt. And I just love your work, especially with the public hearts defibrillator campaign as well. Obviously, you got involved with that. There's 108 across the county. For those who might be watching this show elsewhere, can you just explain it briefly, what it actually is?
Yeah. So as the director of Tidal Training Direct, which I started in 2017 as the sister company to the mothership, which was started 13 years ago, for me, as an off-call regulated training provider and running a team of paramedics who can teach everything pre-hospital care, there is absolutely no point having the confidence to act with CPR and a defib and the certificate to prove it for your workplace framework and your HSE if you come out of that classroom and you haven't got any kit to get your hands on. Because with the best will in the world, an ambulance will never, and has never, been able to get there quick enough. So it's nothing to do with NHS pressure. It's nothing to do with NHS waiting times, any of that ambulance backup conversation. It's about, if we can get a defib on a patient in the first 2 minutes, we can increase the chances of survival by 80%. For every minute that passes, it decreases by 10%. So we don't need to be mathematicians to know where that's going. So when I looked at Cheltenham Town Centre back in 2017, and I did a recce and I mapped it out against SWAS, South West Ambulance Service, and where they knew their kit was, because they had a defib accreditation scheme at the time, I found that there were 0 publicly accessible defibs in Cheltenham Town Centre. And with no public funding and no interest at that time, because we know how quickly the world moves on and how COVID changed everything, and now it's changing again because of AI and taxation and where we are globally, socioeconomically, I thought, well, I don't believe in can't, Mark. It has to be done. Because if I'm going to run a company and put my name to it, it's got to be proper job. And when I walked through the door to bid in 2018, when they were just starting out as well, and God bless Kevin Blackadder, he said, Claire, I'll help you fund the first Cheltenham Town Centre defib. And it went in the phone box by Franco Manca. And that was it. And then that was it. I was on a mission. And I am the founder of Public Hearts Defib Campaign. I can't express to you how important it is to give somebody the kit and the confidence to be able to do this and prove that not everything is about money, not everything's about commercial interest. And when you focus on what's important, which is helping each other, we can build caring, collaborative communities and a strong economic infrastructure, because we're building values that support everybody and everything, no matter what sector you're in. So yeah, number 108 is going in at the Meadow Cafe at 6:30 tomorrow morning. I will be having my Weetabix. But to give you an idea of how often these defibs are accessed, Mark, I'm currently the guardian of 75 out of 107.
Wow.
52 of those have been accessed a total of 151 times in the last 12 months. And to give you an idea, this time last year, I was only putting number 90 in at Taylor's because I was behind schedule, because as you know, I had breast cancer last year. And we're going to get to 111 by the end of this year, because that's the NHS's favourite number. But I don't want anybody to think that cardiac arrests only happen to old people, because they don't. 41% happen in ages 16 to 65. We lose 12 young people every week in this country to sudden cardiac death between the ages of 14 and 35. Christian Eriksen at the Euro 2020s proved what can happen when you get a defib on someone super quick. And I'm here to share that there are positive outcomes and that anyone can use a defib and anyone might need one. And absolutely no training is required because they're designed for accidental heroes like you and me every single day. And I've seen someone as young as 4 use a defib and as old as 92.
No, absolutely amazing job you've done there, Claire. And as someone who's a survivor of a heart attack, what else can I say really? Andy, I know you've got them in your garages as well. And I think you said off air that they've been used to save some people.
Yeah, we have a dozen or so around our sites, not just our showrooms, but in some of the other buildings that we have. We took that decision. Oh, I don't know. It's probably, I'm guessing, around 7, 8, 9 years ago to put them in. We trained the staff, and we've got some fantastic staff that really engage in wanting to make sure they fully understand how they work. And we've had two, unfortunately, we've had 2 occasions in 2 of our showrooms where the staff have taken, fantastic. They just come straight in, they grab the defib, and certainly in one of the cases, the paramedics and the hospital said, had it not been for that there would be a very good chance that person would not have survived.
No.
We had a case more recently this year, actually. I think it was maybe in the back of last year. Again, in another showroom where the again our fantastic employees grabbed the defib and dealt with the poor person, and he survived. So yeah, it was a great decision that we made. Dave, who Roman knows, was the champion for it. He's very passionate about it. Every time we go to one of our showrooms, the first thing Dave does is check the little light on the defibs flashing, and it is working. It was a fantastic thing that we did, I think, to put them in, because to know that we've potentially had 2 people that are still on this planet today because of that is very, very warming.
Thanks ever so much for that, Andy. Okay, guys, we're kind of running out of time, I'll be honest with you. Just for a quick round, has anybody got a question for question time? Has anyone got a question of each other? Yes, Roman.
Just a quick one. There's one to each if that's right. If that's all right, Andy. Just a quick one on cars. I've got a sort of interest in cars, and it's quite funny when I talk to Dave that he's got absolutely no interest in cars. It's brilliant. But I'm just interested in to see where you think the likes of Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes, particularly, will be in the marketplace in say 10 years time, or do you think their market share is going to be eroded, or do you think that people are going to buy them because the brands are strong enough in their own right?
It's a very difficult question to answer because it's probably way above my understanding of global the global motor trade as it's changing across the world. I think all traditional brands are under threat. Not necessarily threat of not existing, but their market share. Volkswagen have certainly managed to maintain their market share and increase it, actually. They're doing quite well, but they've had their issues, and they still have their issues. I think the biggest challenge for any European manufacturer is the cost of production. When they're competing with the Far East, and it's not just China, but the Far East in general, the cost of production is just so vastly different. So I think all brands, certainly the German brands, have to adapt and change. They have to certainly, as they are already, move away from some of their traditional values of what cars they sit in the market, not value so much, but where their cars sit in the market, and make sure their cars are appealing. And the one thing I'd say, just to finish off quickly, is electric cars, the brand seems to be less important. People are seeing electric cars almost as a new product, where the brand heritage does not have the same pull that the previous brands in our industry have had. So I think they have to adapt and change is the easy answer to that one.
And I just had a quick question for Claire about the defibrillators. So I'm involved with a charity based. I live in Frampton, and we've got a charity down here. And we had an incident a couple of years ago where somebody needed a defib, and there was one in Frampton on 7.
Yes.
and we used it, and I couldn't say for sure whether it entirely saved the chap's life, but we think it did. So we're the ambulance was called, but we don't know quite what the medical outcome is that, because none of our business, frankly. But the team went around that. I'm just wondering what the criteria is for deploying when we have a site in Gloucester, in Kingsholm. We haven't got one on site, so apologies for that. But I'm just wondering what the criteria would be for public access. Is it just a wall that you need with some permission, or is it or does it need power? What do we need?
What you need, Roman, is me to pop down and have a look at the site, because obviously you need to do an on-site risk assessment first. Before I'd even do that, I'd ask for the postcode of that location so I can map where existing coverage is and do some gap fill analysis. I'd also look at the population density, and I'd connect that between a commercial environment and where the nearest residential environment is, because 80% of out-of-hospital cardiac arrests happen at home. So I'd look at all of those things, and then I'd literally pop down with my trusty tape measure, take some photographs, say yes is the answer, what's the question, and get a defib on a wall, because that's how we roll.
Okay, well, we'll do that. I mean, I'm glad. there must be lots of businesses and premises out there that would like to be involved, but they're not quite sure how to. So that's great, Claire.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what's great about Mark at Punchline, because he gives us a platform to be able to share information that benefits others. And we're not even a charity; it's literally, the defib family and all the locations will literally say, right, where do we need it? So I'll spend a lot of time in community resource centres and Cheltenham Borough homes and things like that, where we really need those. But with you, Roman, I'd be delighted to take that initiative and say, right, let's just get the job done and expand that network. I think I've got 25 in Gloucester already. I've actually got 3 in Ukraine as well, but that's a story for another day.
All right, well done. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thanks ever so much. We're going to have to go to the pick of the punchlines now, because we're running out of time very, very quickly. Andy, what have you picked out for the punchlines today, please?
I think the one for me, being from Gloucester, is the redevelopment, hopefully, of the former Chambers pub in Gloucester, which I think anyone that walks around there, now the Forum is looking fantastic, and I think it's about to open, or just opening, I'm not sure, but it certainly looks fantastic, with the train station development, the bus station development, the old Debenhams with the new library just moving in. That building really needs some life to make that whole area really stand out as it should do. So yeah, it's great news that a business, the lounge businesses, I think, are going in there. So hopefully that comes to fruition, and that will certainly raise that part of the town.
Without shadow of a doubt, and I think it's going to be the catalyst for others coming around the area as well, especially as the council own a lot of those properties in that King Square. A lot of people don't realise that, so they have a big say in what can actually go in there. Okay, Roman, what have you picked out from Punchline this week, please?
Well, firstly, Mark, thanks for producing Punchline. It's a tremendous resource, and the sort of go-to place now for anything related to business in our area. So well done for that. That's great. So the one is the new manufacturing plant in Hardwick, set to create 2,000 jobs. It's an advanced composite manufacturing enterprise, a spin-out company from the University of Bristol. I can't say that I understand what they're actually doing, but it's to do with some space project, and I imagine that's only going to grow and grow. So it's great news for Gloucester, particularly.
Right, sure, no, fantastic, high tech, well paid jobs coming to just outside the city on Junction 12. Thanks for that, Claire. Your pick of the punchlines this week, please.
Oh, it's another wonderful story. Barratt Homes Bristol has announced that they are going to support the wonderful James Hopkins Trust as their charity for the year 2025-2026. Absolutely magical. One of the most heart-touching charities, part of our DFib family, part of our Tidal family, and we absolutely love what they do. So really well done, Barratt Homes.
No, good stuff. Thanks for picking that story as well. My story of the week has to be back at Cavendish House. That story is bubbling away. We are actually breaking the next phase of the story today, so keep a close eye on that. It's going to rumble and cause a lot of feathers being ruffled as you watch that play through. Guys, I just want to say a big thank you to my wonderful panel. Thanks ever so much for joining us today. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Hazelwood's Accountants and Business Advisors, because we really couldn't do the show without them and any of our advertisers. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you like the show, please like, share and subscribe. And we'll be back again next week. But remember, in between that, it's all in the punchline. Thanks ever so much. Bye. And I've never seen so many hearts.